Welcome back, everybody, to the Franchise Frontier podcast, where we explore the ever-evolving franchise landscape. Today, we welcome Dustin Selzer. He is our Director of Sales at Horsepower Brands, has been in the home sales and training space for over a decade, and today we're going to chat about, briefly, AI technology. Obviously, right now, that is something that has taken over many landscapes as far as the sales landscape. So we're going to talk a little bit about today about how technology is kind of reshaping the sales process and your portion of that and the things that you see and as far as that. So, Dustin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
So as we talk about this and we talk about AI in general, obviously it turns itself into something that as early as 5 years ago seems so far away. It is obviously an evolving landscape. It has transformed things as far as phone notes, AI note takers, etc. I'm sure that it has definitely changed the landscape in sales and whatnot. So from your seat as the Director of Sales for Horsepower, as you're building out a sales process, how have you seen the AI take on a shape that you weren't ready for?
Yeah, no, if you would ask me 5 years ago if AI was actually going to be able to help the sales process, I would have first probably asked you what AI is, because it didn't even really exist back then. But how it's really started to take shape was it can listen to an entire conversation and scrub it down and tell you the key points that a sales rep should be hitting or not hitting. So it doesn't even involve the process yet, just the whole capability of it being able to listen to a conversation, scrub it down and say, what things are the sales rep should be doing, shouldn't be doing, all those different things. I had no idea I could do those.
Yeah, I would imagine if you talk about AI tools or any sort of technology in the sales process, I know this might not be a portion that you also, but I think about 3D rendering tools. I think about AI laser measuring tools, etc.
Yeah.
I think about that as a whole, and you talk about the customer experience. Obviously, all those things are things that will grow the customer experience. So when you think about the home sales and home service portion, how has it traditionally gone, and where do you think that in the beginning this AI tool will help people advance?
Yeah, so I've been a part of quite a few different sales processes, and traditionally what I've seen happen out there's really two main ones. Now, of course, there's other types of sales processes that have been around for a long time, but the two main ones are, first, they're just the order takers. They go in there, they do a really fast observation of the space, and they're going to spit out as many proposals as they can in a day. They might only spend about 10, 15 minutes at a house, and they're on to the next one. And so the experience for the homeowner was basically nothing other than they knew a person would come in, and they would use those copy sheets where it's like they bleed through.
Yep.
And there'd be a white copy, a pink copy, and a yellow copy. They would fill those things out. They would take the white copy and hand over the pink slip to the homeowner, and that was the entire experience. So that still happens today. The other one is since the 80s, there's been some sales psychology that's really been happening, and so the more complex of a sales process, it seemed like the better. And so you had to learn a book full of scripts, and you really had to be able to go out there and do that. So it was over processed. So they swung the pendulum completely to the other side. And those were two of the really traditional ways of doing it, either over-processed or basically no process whatsoever.
So when you look back at those and how AI can help in that process, I guess before we get into how AI can help, for you, when you look at a sales process, what do you feel like in the home service space were some of the most insufficiencies or pain points of that process?
Yeah, so sales is all about building value, right? So value is what the homeowner is looking for. Is it going to solve my problems? Is there enough value because there's going to be a price tag associated with it? When you have you're running in there for 15 minutes, making your measurements, you're really building zero value for it. And so that was a huge pain point for those type of things. Now, is there some success in doing that? With the law of averages, you're going to win some deals, because if you do 10 a day and you do that 5 days a week, somebody's going to probably go with you. But is that a scalable solution? So that was one of the big pain points. When it goes to the over-process things, people actually really like that. However, people don't want to feel like they're getting a process done to them. And so that can diminish some of the value that you actually are gaining with the homeowner by following a process.
So do you think that in those two segments, what are the customer's expectation? If you go back to the old, right, when you talked about the yellow and the pink piece of paper, et cetera,
Yeah.
the expectation of the homeowner then versus this new generation of tech-savvy people, what are people expecting now in terms of what they expect now versus then?
Yeah, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. Homeowners are educated on the problems. And so if you think that the homeowners aren't educated, you need to make sure that you're going into the appointment knowing that they probably have some knowledge base of what's going on. With that, what they're looking for, though, is they're wanting somebody to be efficient with their time. They want it to be a transparent conversation, and they want it to be personalized to their experience. That's what they're really looking for. And so they want an expert. They want an expert that knows what they're talking about, can personalize it, and be transparent with them.
That's awesome. You know, another thing that I as we're talking about AI and I'm thinking about all these tools, I know that, you know, just in our overall process as a company or as any company, you know, there's other things that we don't even think about that are part of this AI experience, right? The website chat bot, or, you know, things to that extent to help you figure out your frequently asked questions. No longer is it a little paperclip that pops up on Microsoft Word, you know, 100 years ago, where, you know, everybody clicked off of it. Now we're expecting those chat bots, and I think that probably comes from our lack of patience, because in society today, it does not take much research to become knowledgeable.
Right.
Doesn't mean you're a professional, doesn't mean you're an expert, but at the same time, you know, knowledge is no longer in an encyclopedia. You can quickly grab it on your phone, tablet, computer, etc., and feel like you have an idea, to your point, that when a service provider comes in, that you're going to want to make sure that they touch on these points, because that way you know that you're speaking the same language. So, you know, when you think about the AI landscape, and we're going to get to our sales process shortly here, is there anything that pops up in your head that says this is a risk of the challenges of relying on AI?
There still needs to be a human element when it gets involved, right? That's why a person still needs to go to somebody's house to run the appointment. Now, for the AI chatbots that are inside of a website, that's an efficiency thing, and that's what we're learning about AI is it's built on efficiencies. You can get things done a lot quicker with doing that, so a homeowner can click on there and feel like, hey, I got the answers I needed, but now I need an actual human being to come to my house and actually run the appointment to tell me what's going on. AI doesn't have that capability yet, so you can't fully rely on AI. You still need humans to do those things, and I don't think that's ever going to go away.
Good. You know, when I think about just talking about customer experience, right? I know that in the sales process of most businesses, the customer experience, if you're trying to get referrals, et cetera, return business is paramount.
Oh, yeah.
So when you think about, for example, a rendering tool, an AI visualization tool to that extent, how does that tool help customers visualize their project and then maybe increase that commitment level?
So I've worked with 3D rendering tools, and I just got to say this first, for any sales rep that's using a 3D rendering tool, you better learn that thing like the back of your hand, because again, we're talking about people that don't have a ton of patience levels, and they want things to happen instantly for them. And the faster you can get at generating one of those tools, the more impactful it's going to be. So I just wanted to put that as kind of a foundation for it. But yeah, customers, when you're with them and they're doing something that they need to visualize, you'll hear it in the appointment, and it will sound exactly what you would think it would sound like. You're going through, you're building up the proposal, you even show the price to them, and then they're going to say something along the lines of, you know what, I'm having a hard time picturing exactly what this thing's going to look like. right there is your key moment that you say, I need to utilize this tool so I can show them exactly what it looks like. And if you can do it efficiently and quickly and fast, your conversion rate's gonna happen. You'll see it go up.
I believe it definitely helps in that regard to increase confidence of the client, and it should increase your closing rate if you're able to show them what they're looking for. Yeah. And I also believe that it's important to be able to show them options, right? A lot of times we've talked about options, right, in the sales process, whether it be roofing, fencing, doesn't necessarily matter. Any home service, most times we talk about the other options. We could also do something like this. We could also do something in this color, in this fashion, etc. The ability to say that and then show that really brings the homeowner into the process and helps them understand the ways of the technology.
Yeah, if you have a visualizer and you're showing option 1, and then you show the visualizer with option 2, and it gets bigger and better, and the customer can actually see it, and then you show the third option that has all of what you can offer for them, it looks better, it feels better, and it encourages them to say, maybe I don't want just the option 1 with just the bare minimum. I kind of want everything. Now that I've seen it, I want it all.
And I believe it probably holds your business in a higher standard for that customer, right? When when they're talking about the ways of, back in the day, you would open a Yellow Pages and you just find the page, and whatever business you found. And to the point now, when we're in a situation with SEO, with website traffic, et cetera, you now are talking about what's my differentiator, what makes me stand out. And I think that these AI tools as well as 3D rendering tools are really things that help home service brands stand out.
Oh, absolutely.
So as we dive into now the sales process, which I believe we're calling game time, is that correct?
Come on now.
Yep. As you talk about that, so we've recently introduced this sales process called game time. So can you talk a little bit about what the motivation was behind that?
Yeah. So if we're just talking about the name, listen, sales is a sport, right? I don't care how you slice it up. Sales is a sport. So that's where we came up with game time, and we really broke it down. There's 4 quarters to it. And so we kept it really simple. 4 main core parts of the sales process. We even put a halftime right in the middle of it so you can prepare for the second half. Maybe you need to make some adjustments. So that's just the name of it. Now, when we were coming up with game time and what we wanted to have in it, it really boiled down to, we know homeowners are going to be educated, so we have to be efficient with them. We have to be transparent, and we have to make sure that we're building value all the way through it. So that was the motivation behind it when it came to what we're trying to have for the homeowner's experience. Now, internally, when we talk about it, we have 9 brands, and we had 9 different sales processes, and we didn't have a whole lot of intercommunication between each brand because everybody was basically doing the same thing but calling it something different. Now we're able to work brand to brand because we have a universal sales process, and so every brand can work with each other, which is a big part of it. Last piece of it is the AI capability of it. We had to have some consistency within all the brands, so when we use our AI tool, we're able to track those things.
So when you talk about, to the person who doesn't understand and thinks that there is a different quote-unquote sales process for roofing or fencing, et cetera, when you talk about the game time process and you talk about game time sales process, how is that process able to cross-pollinate across different brands? I know it, obviously I'm talking about sales and roofing in one or fencing in another, but I would imagine that there's guidelines in the sales process that really is quarter 1, quarter 2, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then you're able to adjust within as it comes to your quality or whatever you're providing.
Yeah, every brand has their own nuances that you're going to have to highlight so you can build value for those specific ones. However, we really simplified game time to allow the sales rep to be themselves. It's not a book full of scripts that it's like, hey, memorize all of this and you could sell any of the 9 brands. But it is, like you said, it's like the guide rails that are going to keep you in. And so as long as you can change lanes if you need to, but you're going to be within the guardrails of the road, and it allows you to build the value. And you can build value the same way for a roof as you're going to build value for a fence or window coverings or whatever it is.
Excellent. So when you're talking about implementing a new sales process or let's just call, maybe it's changing the name and refining the sales process is maybe the better way to define it.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges in sales before implementing it?
Yeah, no, this is a great question. And it's one of the reasons why I'm super proud to work at Horsepower, because one of the biggest challenges was internal. Like I said before, we had 9 brands and 9 different sales processes. And here we come out saying we're going to start making it all unified into one. Dave, have you ever watched History Channel where they're doing like the gold and they're mining gold and then they refine it down?
I've watched History Channel on a couple. I've watched that for sure. I've also watched the Gold Rush where they never find enough gold. But yes, to your point, I have watched the History Channel. I have seen that.
So I want to kind of correlate that to the gold and refining it. So what they do is they take these metals out of the earth. Some of it's gold, but there's some impurities inside of it, right? And then they put it into a really hot stove and they boil it down, and you can see the impurities boiling out. Then they pour it into their gold bar thing, and they come out with almost pure gold. And so, again, one of the reasons why I'm so proud to work at Horsepower Brands is we had 9 brands, and some of the conversations, yeah, they got pretty heated, right? And we had really good conversations back and forth. But what happened is through all those conversations, we really took the customers and homeowners experience at the top of it. And so we refined all the impurities out so we could have basically pure gold, or what we call game time sales process, at the very end of it. So that was probably the biggest challenge, but it was one of the most rewarding things when we got done with it.
I see what you did there with the heated conversation leading to burning off the impurities of the old sales process. So I appreciate that. So with that being said, with the new sales process and everybody being on board and driving the ball down the field, how do you feel game time has improved accountability, consistency, and performance across the board?
So simplification is the main part of it, right? You can't have it. No longer do we need these super psychology driven, super thick books of how a sales process is supposed to go. It's really simple. And the simpler you can make it is going to drive consistency. It's really easy to follow something if it's simplified for you. So that's probably the number one thing for consistency. Now, if you can do a sales process and you understand it and you do it consistent, your performance will start to increase. Now, where does it come with the accountability side of things? Because that's where your owners and your general managers, sales managers, they have to be on board with the simplified process. They can learn it so much easier because there's only 4 quarters. You can understand what you're supposed to accomplish within each one of those. So they're actually able to hold their sales reps accountable. And I know we're going to get into the AI side of this thing, but that's really where you pair those two things together. That's where the magic happens for accountability.
That's awesome. So to your point, let's jump right into it a little bit. So as we talk through the sales process, you had mentioned that we were using a groundbreaking AI tool for our brands. And so as you look at that, how is it changing the way of our sales process, and how is it impacting the way that teams operate so far?
So we've had really great success. I mean, there's no doubt about it. AI is changing the way that sales performance and accountability and coaching is happening. Now, when we simplified it, there's like 15 key trackers is what we call them. We call them key trackers. And those are the different parts of the sales process. So when a sales rep is using the AI tool and it scrubs their conversation, it's going to say, did they hit all of the trackers that were in there? Now, as a sales rep, you can say, hey, am I doing a good job? Am I making sure that I'm talking about all the right things? But as a coach or a general manager or a sales manager, you can go in there. You'll know exactly what you need to train on. You know exactly what coaching needs to be done. And that's really how it's starting to change the game, is everybody's getting involved, and it's key insights to every single appointment, and there's themes that come off of it. So it's pretty amazing.
I couldn't agree more. I believe that one of the probably least used tactics in sales is the debrief. Oftentimes, sales reps have appointment after appointment after appointment, which is what we all want. But at the same time, they don't take time to realize there was a key part in that conversation where possibly I stumbled. I didn't like the way I answered this question. I wish it was a little bit more refined, et cetera, to build a stronger sales process. And I think that when we take the time to evaluate each one of our sales appointments or our day in general, there are tons of ways. Well, there wasn't tons of ways before, because unless you took notes on coaching yourself, you really had no way to interact and figure out how else would I do that unless I bring the general manager along with me on the call, and which makes it even more uncomfortable.
Right.
And so at this point now, it sounds like this tool has the ability to basically debrief, right? Let people debrief. I know they do that in the military. I know they do that in sports. Why not do that in the sales process? So when I think about that, I also believe, well, this can't be the only tool in the market. So when I think about that, what makes this tool that we're going to use a different and better solution than other things that we see in the market?
Sure. So when we sat down to look out for the AI tool that we were wanting for, there were some boxes that it needed to check. And so first box was it had to be easy to use, right? Because change is always going to be something that's going to be harder to go, but if it's easier to use, it's going to be better. So that was one of the boxes that we want. The other one was it had to be something that could track the sales appointment versus the sales process. And the third thing was you had to be able to provide coaching to the sales rep through it. And so when we narrowed it all down, some of them were good at some of them, and some of them, there was actually one that was just good that checked every single one of the boxes. And so that's really what we went with. So it's easy to use, it tracks the sales process, and you can coach directly with it. And that's why we chose this AI tool.
So I'll be devil's advocate as a salesperson.
Okay.
When you provide this to a franchisee and their sales team, or a general manager for his sales team, how do you pitch this to your sales team to say, this isn't a tool that's watching you, this is a tool that we want to use to coach you?
Yeah. So, is it Big Brother? Is it a gotcha tool? And I'll be honest with you, there are some people that could probably use it as a gotcha tool, and you'll see your retention of your employees go pretty quick because that's not the way they use it. Now, the best way to encourage your team to use something like this is everybody loves money, right? I mean, that's why we go to work every single day, is because we want to make money. We want to help our homeowners. And so if you can say, hey, we can actually increase your closing percentage, your average size per sale, and we can increase those things by providing coaching for you, is that something that you'd want to do?
That's great. And I think you're probably right in terms of it's all about the delivery, right? It does have the ability to be a gotcha tool, but if you can do constructive criticism and you can help people raise their closing percentage, which then puts more money in their pocket for not only the franchisee but the salesperson. At the end of the day, that's what everybody wants. So as you look to the future of home services and you think about the ways, what are some ways that you feel franchisees and salespeople can adapt to these changes, this ever-changing landscape of sales in the home?
So you're talking about adapting to AI tools with the sales process?
Yeah, because it's no longer about bellying up to the table and just having a great presentation. It's about adding these type of things into your presentation to have a all-in-one stop.
Oh, yeah. So if you're going to mix those two together, so belly-to-belly sales, and that's belly to kitchen table, and your homeowner is bellied up as well. So that's what we refer to as belly-to-belly sales.
Okay.
Now, you have to have a great presentation. But when you go through, and kind of to bring it back to how it happened before AI, you'd have to journal. You'd have to journal after the appointment. You get that's what I did, because we didn't have. I'm old enough to say I didn't have AA tools when I was running appointments. But you'd have to journal exactly what happened. But you had to pull from your memory. And guess what? When I thought I gave a great presentation, I would write down, no problems here. I did the perfect presentation to somebody. I didn't have any issues with that. My issue is at the beginning of the appointment when I was asking questions. And then I was trying to remember all the questions that I asked. So the adoption of AI, you can actually go back and say, what questions did I actually ask the homeowner? And it's actually going to spit it out for you and tell you every question that you asked. Go to my presentation. Where did I lose the customer? You can ask AI that within the actual appointment. It's going to scrub your entire presentation, and it's going to tell you where you lost the customer. You spoke too fast. You didn't speak fast enough. You didn't pause. You didn't ask enough questions within the presentation. I don't care if you're really good at journaling. You can't remember everything, where AI captures everything.
That's impressive. I think that will definitely, if people adapt to it, I think that it will help a lot of salespeople feel stronger, or at least feel that they were given an opportunity to become a better salesperson. So we talked about it a little bit before. We know that technology is never going to replace humans, the human element of sales. But do you think it has more to do with augmentation? Like, what do you think that it's not there to take over, it's just there to implement, correct?
Yes, it's efficiencies. I can't stress that enough. Homeowners are educated when you go into their house. You have to be more efficient with them. Otherwise, they're going to feel like, hey, you're wasting my time. And I always say there's three things that create high-risk moments, right? There's three things. First is don't waste people's time, because if you waste somebody's time and you feel like you're wasting somebody's time, their walls are going to start building up and it's going to cause some issues. The second thing is don't spend their money, right? Don't spend their money. Don't try to sell them the biggest thing, because not everybody wants the Corvette. They might need a minivan for their situation, right? Or the third thing is don't take their decision making away from them. So don't do that. Those are the three things that create high-risk moments. So if you're listening to this and you're running sales and you see yourself creating high-risk moments with them, it makes it really uncomfortable and their walls build up. Stop doing those three things and it'll help you out.
That's incredible. That's actually probably a good place to wrap up. So I appreciate Dustin for coming on the show today and talking to us about this AI tool. Obviously, this will probably be something that we have many more episodes about as it starts to grow, as it starts to take place. I would love to possibly get on a show where it's yourself and a possible salesperson or a franchisee that's been implementing those tools. I think that would be a great insight for everybody as well. We want to thank you again for being part of the Franchise Frontier podcast, and we look forward to speaking to you next time.